welcome back to the Private Practice Growth Club YouTube channel. If we haven't met yet, I'm Tasneem. I'm the founder of the Private Practice Growth Club, and my mission is to give health professionals starting or growing private practices in South Africa the knowledge and tools they need to book more of their dream clients and build a profitable practice. So if that sounds like you, then this channel is for you. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button and also hit the bell to be notified of when I post new videos. Now, in this video, I'm going to be going over what are some of the essential elements you need to include in your private practice business plan. And why is it even necessary to have one? What is the purpose of a business plan? Isn't it just some document that you need to get funding or that sits in a file somewhere and you never refer back to it? No, it definitely is not. As health professionals, we are helpers and givers by nature. So we tend to feel guilty about wanting to sell our services or to make money. In the health profession, there's a lot of shame around wanting to earn well. Like we should be doing what we do to serve underprivileged communities. For many health professionals, our greatest fear is being perceived as sleazy or salesy when we are trying to market our services or make our services known. And we don't want to be seen as being just in it for the money. Because the truth is, most health professionals are really passionate about the profession and truly just want to make a positive impact in the world. Is that you? Does that sound like familiar to you, that that's the kind of mindset that you have? But the reality is, just because you aren't all about making money doesn't mean you shouldn't make any. I'm sure you've heard the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. Well, by earning well and not feeling stressed and overworked, you can still serve less fortunate communities by giving back if that's something that you desire. And you can do this through having more time freedom and having more dispensable income in order to serve those less fortunate than yourself. But having said that, you should never feel ashamed if you don't have the capacity or the desire to go this route. On the other hand, if you are not making ends meet trying to serve others, how sustainable will your impact really be? How sustainable will it be if you should have to close your practice because your practice was unsustainable? Then how are you going to serve those people who really need your services? The work you do is really hard. There's an emotional cost to providing health services. The cost of going to inspiring trainings to keep up to date with the latest evidence-based research, to keep up to date with your CPD just so that you can continue practicing. Getting ongoing supervision and mentorship, even taking time off is costly. So don't undervalue your work and your expertise. Don't undervalue your profession by feeling ashamed for wanting to build a profitable practice. One way you can make this money mindset shift is to really get clear about why your practice exists, its mission and values, who you serve, and what problem you are trying to help them solve. And this is the reason it's important to have a business plan. A business plan describes all these things, as well as outlining how you will generate revenue, the expenses of your practice, your marketing plan, and your projected income. Unfortunately, we are not taught how to develop a business plan. So when we do decide to go into practice, most of us just stumble straight into the operational side of running a practice without ever creating a plan for profitability. We focus on things that make us feel productive, like creating a logo or social media, and maybe we even get some clients that way. But it's important to remember that just because a practice is full or busy, it doesn't always mean that it's a profitable practice. You can be a very busy practice, billing high amounts of revenue, but you can still be barely scraping by. Or worse, you can be a busy practice that isn't making any profit at all. I know of many health professionals in private practice who have mentioned that they have been in business for years and haven't taken a regular salary. That's insane, because that means that you are not running a business, you are running a charity and you are a slave for that charity. If you think about it, having a practice without a business plan is kind of like treating a patient without doing an assessment and creating a treatment plan. Think of your business plan like your practice's treatment plan. And just like your patient treatment plan, your business plan shouldn't be a set and forget document. It's a living document that evolves as you and your practice needs evolve. In the Private Practice Growth Academy, I teach my members how to keep their finger on the pulse of their practice so that it's easy to review and keep their business plan updated. When someone goes through the academy, they are effectively making sure they have covered all aspects of their business plan. Now, in this video, I'm going to go through the business plan workbook that I created initially for Academy members only, but then I decided to make it free for anybody who is looking to start a practice. So if you'd like to download the template or the editable workbook that I'm going to be going through in this video, go and have a look in the description box below, and you should find a link that you can download the workbook. So let's get into it. So the very first section in your private practice business plan is your executive summary, which is a very critical section in your business plan because it provides a holistic snapshot or summary of your practice. But although it's the first section, it's actually best to write the section last because it summarizes everything that you are going to be including in the real main section of your business plan. So I'm going to skip ahead for now and get straight into the meat and potatoes of your business plan. The first thing you want to do before you start a private practice is to do a SWOT analysis. And a SWOT analysis basically maps out your business path towards the goals that you are trying to achieve by identifying strengths and weaknesses, which are your internal attributes, and opportunities and threats, which are external conditions in which your practice is operating. So if we look at opportunities at first, you're going to ask yourself what changes in your profession or the policies affecting your profession and social patterns can be a growth opportunity for your practice. So, for example, during the COVID-19 lockdown, the HPCSA amended their policies to allow all health professionals to be able to provide telehealth services, where previously not all health professionals were allowed to do so. And even where you were allowed to do so, there were very strict policies around how you provided that service. Now that telehealth services has continued to be allowed even post the lockdown, it means there's a great opportunity there for many practices to extend their reach to patients outside their geographic region who potentially couldn't access services because of location and lack of services. So that's a great opportunity there. You also want to look at what are the common or reoccurring problems that you find that you notice among your ideal patient population that you can provide a solution for. So, for example, if you are a mental health occupational therapist or you specialize in executive functioning dysregulation, then the fact that there's this increased education and awareness around the existence of adult ADHD, and that more adults with ADHD are recognizing the signs and symptoms in themselves and seeking diagnosis, there's an opportunity there to be able to extend your mental health practice to serve that population. Then you want to look at what are the threats in your environment. So are there existing alternatives to the solution that you're trying to provide or solve a problem for? So, for example, while there might be a lack of services in the therapy space for adult ADHD, outside of the health profession, there are many coaches who also work with executive functioning and who specialize in working with adults with ADHD. And one of the threats that can potentially pose is that coaching is an unregulated environment. So there are no rules and regulations around how coaches market their services or how they charge. And potentially there are some coaches out there who might be duplicating or providing what looks like therapy services, but because they are able to market themselves better, or without the restrictions of the HPCSA, that could pose a threat to how you then are able to market your own services or have patients choose therapy over coaching when therapy is what they actually need. You also want to look at changes in the external environment that could present as an obstacle to your business growth. So, for example, COVID-19 lockdown was a major threat to many private practices. Then the next thing you want to look at, so your internal attributes, which are your strengths and weaknesses. In terms of strengths, you want to ask yourself what sets you apart from your competitors. What advantages do you or your practice have? Example, do you have specialized training? Perhaps you sensory integration trained or NDT trained, DIR floor time trained, maybe you have specialist cognitive behavioral therapy training. What are those specialized trainings you have? Or perhaps you have a higher level of clinical experience above many of your peers. And ask yourself, what is your unique value proposition for potential patients? Then you want to look at your weaknesses. So, what areas can you or your practice improve on? What does your practice lack? What does your competitors? What do your competitors do or have, or um, how are they providing existing solutions to the problems that you are trying to solve? That might be make them more attractive to you in terms of what they're offering. So, for example, what are there other practices that have maybe better operating hours or a better location or more specialized training or more experience, or maybe they have a better online presence than you? So how can you look at where you are lacking in relation to what your competitors are currently providing? Then you want to do market research. Now, when starting a private practice, it's very important to know who your ideal patients are and what problems it is that they are trying to solve. And then you want to look at what existing practices are out there serving that same patient profile group. In business, this is known as competitor analysis. And even though the exercise is the same, a competitor analysis is what you're going to be doing, it's still important as health professionals that to know that business as a health professional, particularly as an HPCSA registered and regulated profession, is very different for us. So I want to discourage a competitor mindset and rather encourage you to adopt what I like to call a co-opetition mindset. So, in other words, they are your competitors, but you also want to cooperate with your competitors, because in the health profession, other health professions can be your lifeline in your private practice. They'll be your colleagues, your clinical mentors, your friends, your potential referral sources, and important outlets for the emotionally challenging work you may sometimes experience. Now, you already would have touched on competitors in your SWOT analysis in terms of threats and weaknesses, but it's important to give a more detailed outline of your market research, which includes firstly identifying in detail who this co-opetition is. So you're going to make a list of all the health professionals in the same or complementary professions who treat the same condition as you in your immediate area, and you can include this full list as an addendum to your business plan. It doesn't have to all be inside your business plan, but you want to find out who specializes in working with a specific ideal client. So for example, as an adult ADHD occupational therapist, there are many educational psychologists or psychologists who also have a special interest in adult ADHD, and a lot of the services might overlap, or potentially we could be referral sources for each other when trying to provide a more holistic therapy for our clients. Then you want to look at what your co-opetition strategies and goals are. So what does your co-opetition promote and how do they promote it? Are there strategies that you or many of them are that you see many of them using? And what sets each of them apart from one another? Is there a large demand for the kinds of services they provide? And what are their operating hours? What is their payment strategy? So do other practices around you accept medical aids, and are they contracted in or out of medical aids? Perhaps that is something that you can make yourself as a differentiating factor, that if the other practices in your area are cash based, maybe you then contract into medical aids. And this decision needs to take holistically. It's only one factor that you are taking into account. When we get to the financial section is where we'll go into more detail of how you decide how to pull. But you want to look at what your competition are doing, and in order to assess what is currently happening in your environment and what might potentially be what you would need to do. Then you want to look at your client or patient research. So who are your ideal patients? And you want to create 2 or 3 ideal patient profiles that describe things like typical age, income level, hobbies and interests, where they hang out online, etc. Now, a lot of people go into private practice thinking, oh, I'm going to see everybody and be everything to everyone. Now, creating 2 or 3 ideal patient profiles is not to say that if somebody does not fit that profile, you're not going to see them. So, as an adult ADHD occupational therapist, if somebody presents primarily with anxiety, depression that affects their functioning, and they are inquiring about my services, and I can see that I can help this person, I'm not going to turn them away because they're not an adult with ADHD. On the other hand, having a very good referral network, and if I see that I'm not able to help this person to the best of my ability because I've chosen to focus on a specific area in mental health, I can then refer out appropriately. So it's really important to understand exactly who your ideal patient profile is and describe them and understand where they typically would be looking for solutions to their challenges. What is their deep desire and what is the tangible transformation they're trying to achieve? In the academy, we go through an exercise called message mining, where members are taught how to connect with the ideal patients, to research and to understand their potential patients so that they can serve them best. Because sometimes what we as therapists think a patient needs or is struggling with is actually not what their priorities are. Then you are going to develop your marketing plan. So in this section of your business plan is where you're going to dig deep into your marketing strategy. Now, in the marketing mastery module of the academy, members are taken through a step-by-step process for developing a marketing strategy that aligns with their values, their capacity, and their interests. Now, your marketing plan describes how you let your ideal patient know about you and how you will communicate the solution that you are providing to them. It's best described by breaking up your marketing into stages according to what is known in business as the customer journey funnel. So at the top of the funnel, we have the awareness stage. This is where you want to ask yourself, how will you get your ideal patients to become aware of you and your practice, the problem you are addressing, and how you are solving it? So, for example, perhaps providing educational content on social media around the topic of adult ADHD, or creating a blog and writing content, educational content around adult ADHD. Then in the middle of the funnel, we have the consideration stage. And this is where you're going to ask yourself, how will you build a deeper relationship with your potential ideal patient? So how can you introduce them to your services? So once they've found your blog or your social media and you're providing these educational content, how do you then further deepen the relationship so that they can understand what you have to offer in relation to that problem? So an examples of things you can do at this stage of the funnel is anonymized case studies or targeted educational content around specific problems within that niche. So, for example, if as an adult ADHD therapist, perhaps I can provide specific content or examples of giving potential solutions to maybe struggling with budgeting or managing your day or time management and things like that, where the person can see, okay, this person can provide practical tools. Maybe they can help me if I need more specific help. Then you're going to go to the bottom of the funnel, which is the decision stage. This is where the people who have found you online, who have found out about you through other sources, now make the decision to actually book an appointment with you. So what will you do to help those who now know about you and your services then decide to make an appointment? So this can be, for example, the information on your website, and or do you clearly define what people can expect if they book an appointment? Is it easy to book an appointment? I cannot tell you how frustrating it is from a patient's point of view to want to book an appointment with someone and you get an answering machine, or they never have appointments, or it's so difficult to book an appointment. And then you might, as a patient, you might go to someone else. Then you want to look at your retention marketing strategies. So how will you delight your patients so that they always return to you when they need treatment again, or that they will return for follow-up treatments where it's clinically recommended for optimal outcomes. But you want to keep in mind here the HPCSA guidelines against incentivizing patient loyalty. We are not a commercial entity, so we can't incentivize loyalty. So, for example, one of the questions that has come up in the Facebook group recently, and if you're not in the free Private Practice Growth Club Facebook group, do go and check that out on www.facebook.com/groups/Private Practice Growth Club. One of the questions that came up is, am I allowed to offer a free session for every, say, 5 sessions booked, or a discount if the person books 5 sessions that they get a discounted rate? This is not allowed. It clearly states in the HPCSA booklet that you are not allowed to incentivize patients booking more sessions, because that could be conducive to over-servicing, which is also not allowed. Then you want to look at advocacy. How will you turn your patients into advocates so that they will spread the word about your practice and or refer friends, family, people they know with similar problems to them to you? How will you get more referrals from other health professionals? Now, bear in mind again the HPCSA guidelines against touting and canvassing and incentivizing referrals. You absolutely may not, for example, pay another health professional a commission for referring a patient to you, or have an agreement. You can have a referral network where you say, okay, if I have any patients, I will refer to you, but it cannot be an agreement where you are excluding other people from that agreement. So what are other ways that you can make your practice appealing? And this is through things like providing a high quality service. If you are providing a high quality outcomes based service where your patients are satisfied with the results that they get, they will gladly refer you to other people who have the same. And there is nothing wrong with you then asking. Do you have a process in your practice where you will ask your patients, could you if you know of anyone else that is also having lower back pain that might benefit from my services, would you mind sharing my practice details with them? Also, having better communication. So if you have received a referral from another health professional, how are you communicating or keeping that person in the loop so that they feel that you are an excellent provider? Then we're going to look at the next section once you've done your marketing plan, which is your operational plan. And you want to think of operations as the how. So the marketing is the who, and the what you are going to be service you're going to be providing. The operational plan is the how section of your business plan. What do you need to do? How will you get it done? This section should describe the day-to-day operations of your practice. Now, in the private practice business plan template blueprint, I actually have a whole list of questions that are examples of questions you could ask yourself in order to be able to draw up an operational plan. It's by no means a comprehensive list, and not every practice is going to need to answer every question, but it's just examples of some of the questions you can ask. And again, to remind you, if you want this private practice blueprint completely for free, go and look at the description box below. There is a link where you can download it. Exactly what you're seeing on the screen here. So just a few examples of some of the questions you can ask yourself. Will you need premises, such as an office or consulting rooms, or will you be working from home? Do you need a premises or every day of the week, or do you need sessional rooms? How will you secure your premises or secure patient information? So if you're having paper-based practice, or are you going to go cloud-based route? And if so, what software will you need? What will that process look like? What is your appointment booking system? How do people book an appointment with you? How many hours are you going to set aside for treating clients versus how many non-clinical work hours do you need to set aside for things like admin, finance, record keeping, all of those kinds of things? So these are the kinds of questions you need to ask yourself in order to draw up your operational plan and really list out in detail of how your day-to-day operations are going to look. Then the next section you want to look at is practice management. And this kind of seems to be the thing that most people, when they start a practice, focus on. is that they just want to think about practice management, when practice management is really an overview of the management of your practice and the staff, and if you are going to hire any help to help you with different roles and responsibility in your practice. So it's not something that you should be thinking out from the outset, because you first need to understand the operations of your practice. So you want to look at a practice overview. Here you include your vision and mission statement, your intellectual property, your legal structure, your ownership details, the location of your practice, and the history, if you are taking over from an existing practice. So many people buy an existing practice. Do you know the history of the practice, what their practice management is like, what do they have staff, what their payment cycles are, and so on and so forth. And talking about staff, if you have inherited staff or you plan to have staff, you need to then detail who are the staff that you will be employing, and what their roles are, and who will be carrying out the daily operations in your practice. Remember that you yourself are an employee in your practice. So even though you own the own business, whether you're sole prop or a company, you still are an employee in your business. And then we get to the part that I think most people hate and are afraid of, and this is the financial plan. But it's one of the most important sections of any business plan. And I know it can feel very scary and overwhelming if you feel you're not a numbers person, but it need not be complicated. The main function of this section is show where your money is coming from, where it's going, and can you show that if your practice will be profitable or not. If you have a bookkeeper or an accountant, they can help you with this, but you must, I must stress that you have to have them explain it to you so that you have a thorough understanding of the financial health of your business. So one of the most important things that you need to include in your business plan is a P&L, or a profit and loss statement. This is also known as an income statement, and this shows whether you are making a profit or a loss in your practice. If you are a brand new practice, then obviously you don't have those numbers yet. So what you want to do is provide a projected profit and loss, detailing what you anticipate the expenses and revenue of the practice will be for the first 3 months of your business. For expenses, you want to think about your startup costs, like what will you need to buy to get your private practice up and running? How much will you have to spend on marketing? How much will your employees or how much will your consults cost? What about ongoing costs of renting rooms, admin, software, travel, insurance, all of those things? So for projected income, you want to think about what will you charge for your services and how much money will you make each month. You want to be realistic and think about how many patients you will or can treat per week, and how confident are you that you can meet this prediction. What about cancellations? You need to also take into account people cancel, they can't make the appointments. And if you're a solo practice, you'll need to account for time that you might need to take off, because you deserve it. You need to be able to take time off and look after, fill your own cup. And remember, it's better to slightly underestimate your income than overestimate it. Then you want to also have a cash flow statement. So your profit and loss predicts what your expenses are and potential income, and to determine whether your practice is going to be profitable. But your cash flow statement, as they say, cash is king. It's not the same as your income statement. So where the income reflects your revenue and including unpaid invoices and your expenses, the cash flow statement reflects only money in the bank. So this is the statement that helps you understand how much cash you have on hand to pay your bills or grow business. So you might be a profitable practice in the sense that you have unpaid invoices from patients that amount to, let's say, 10,000 Rand, and your expenses come to 5,000 Rand. But if the unpaid are 5,000 Rand and that money is not in the bank, and you only have 2,000 Rand in the bank, it means that you don't have a positive cash flow. You're not able to cover your expenses, which is not good for your business. And then finally, the other important financial document to have is your balance sheet. And your balance sheet is an indicator of your practice's financial health. It includes your assets, such as your equipment that can be resold, liabilities like unpaid patient accounts, and your equity. So, how much money you or your partners, if you are in a partnership, have invested in the practice, or how much you have withdrawn from the practice. So, I'm not talking about salary here, I'm talking about if you draw from your practice, or you draw from your practice for your own use, then that is owner's drawings, which is not the same as paying yourself a salary. So those are all things that need to be included in your balance sheet, that will be reflected in your balance sheet. So we're going back now. You've done all of that. You've done your marketing, your operations plan, you've done practice management and your financials, and now you go back to your executive summary where you're going to look at all of that and put it together. And the first part you're going to do is do practice overview, and this is basically the first few sentences in your whole business plan, where it includes your vision and mission statement, explaining very briefly who you are, why you started a practice, and what services you will provide. And then you look at your value proposition. So this is a short, concise statement about what sets you apart from your competitors and how the products or services you are offering solves the problem your target audience has. In the academy, we go through a guided exercise that helps members define exactly what their new unique value proposition is. Then you want to summarize what your target market is. So you've done your market research, you've identified your target market. So you're going to describe it in summary here, who your ideal patient profile is, what is their demographics, what are their income levels, are they medical aid or cash paying patients, and does your product or service meet their needs? And then you're going to look at practice structure. This is an organizational, operational, and management summary of your practice. So are you a solo practice or a group practice? Do you have employees now, or will you have employees in the future? What type of business registration do you have? Are you going to stay a solo practice, or do you have goals or goals to actually convert to a company later on? Are you in a partnership, or are you in an association? What are the key roles and responsibilities in your practice? You want to briefly describe these in terms of current and future plans. Then you want to look at milestones and traction. This is a really important part of your business plan, because your business plan isn't only about describing what your current situation is, it's also looking at your future goals and your plans for growth. So it defines what metrics or numbers, how are you measuring the success of your practice. The milestones and traction section of your business plan is to answer the question, what does success look like to you, and how will you measure it? So, example, are you measuring it by the number of patients per month, or revenue per month, or profit per month, or cash reserves per month, or size of your team? What are those different things that you want to measure, that in the first year you want to achieve this, in the second year, and so on and so forth? And then finally is your financial summary. And this is again the part that the most terrifying part, where you're going to take your financial section of your business plan and you're going to put it into the executive summary, where you're going to summarize your short-term and medium-term budget, as well as your long-term projected budget. So this should include all known and projected expenses for opening and growing a practice, such as leasing equipment or buying assessments and so on, and also projection of what revenue you plan to generate to cover those expenses. So you can summarize this information using charts. If you find this too overwhelming, you can get assistance from a bookkeeper, but as I said, don't let them just do it for you. You have to work with them so that you understand, and you need to give input. They can't decide for you what your financial projections or what your financial goals are for your practice. It's critical that you know your numbers for your practice yourself. And that's basically it. So this is all that is included in the private practice business plan blueprints, completely available for free. So if you go to the private to the link in the description box below. You'll be able to download the private practice blueprint, and when you download it, you will automatically also get access to the free resource and training hub, where there are lots of other resources in there. So if you enjoyed this video and you found it valuable, do let me know in the comments what was your biggest takeaway. Is this something that you feel that you are able to tackle with the guidance of the blueprint? And again, don't forget to subscribe. It really helps the algorithms to have more people who this video is relevant to find my video, and also hit the bell for notifications. Lots more videos like this to come. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.